Hello students, welcome to the class. Today we are going to discuss about the topic enzyme immobilization. So this enzyme immobilization we are going to study in this particular topic. We are going to study about what is actually the enzyme immobilization, and then what are the different techniques that we use to immobilize an enzyme, and what are the different applications of these immobilized enzymes. Enzymes are nothing but these are the biocatalysts which are synthesized by the living cell. So why do we use the enzymes? If any reaction is processing, to speed up the reaction, we use the enzymes. So when these enzymes are derived from the living organisms like microorganisms, we call them as a biocatalyst. That is why we say that the biocatalyst synthesized by living cells. So when these enzymes are used, if any particular reaction, it is happening in 10 minutes. If we use the enzymes, it could happen in even 2 or 3 minutes. So to enhance the rate of the reaction or to speed up the rate of the reaction, we'll be using the enzymes. So why these enzymes have to be immobilized? What do you mean by immobilized? Nothing but you are stopping the mobility of the enzymes. Okay, so to enhance the usage of these enzymes, we are making them immobilized. Okay, we are making them immobilized, and we can reuse them again and again, so that it will be beneficial in the industrial perspective. Okay, so all the enzymes are protein in nature. They are colloidal and thermolabile in character, and of course they are specific in their action. And sometimes these enzymes can be considered under two categories. They are intracellular enzymes and extracellular enzymes. Intracellular enzymes are nothing but they are produced within the cell, and they function also within that particular cell. They show their function within that particular cell. Whereas extracellular enzymes are those enzymes which are active outside the cell. They are produced inside the cell. That is why I have given the arrow marks like this. So they are produced inside the cell, but they show the action outside the cell. For example, you can take all the digestive enzymes. Examples, you can take all the digestive enzymes are the examples for extracellular enzymes. Coming to the classification of enzymes, we have 6 classes of enzymes, and how these are classified based upon the general type of reaction that these enzymes catalyze. We have classified them into the 6 types. So enzymes are classified by the reaction they catalyze. Example, oxidoreductases, they catalyze oxidation reduction type of reactions. Transferases, they catalyze transfer group of atoms, that is they help in transferring the group of atoms, like that. Hydrolases and the hydrolysis, lyases and the like to add or remove the atoms from the double bond, and isomerases helps in the rearrangement of atoms, and ligases, they use ATP to combine the small molecules. So depending upon the reaction that they catalyze, they were classified into all these 6 types. Coming to the chemical nature of the enzymes, what does this enzyme actually does? So they are invariably proteins, as we already discussed, and sometimes even few RNA molecules have also shown the functioning of the enzyme. And each enzyme has its own tertiary structure and specific conformation, which is very essential for its catalytic activity. If that particular conformation is changed, then the catalytic activity will also be changed. So the functional unit of an enzyme is called as a holoenzyme, and this holoenzyme we can call it as the active part of the enzyme, which is a combination of apoenzyme and a coenzyme. Apoenzyme is a protein part and coenzyme is a non-protein part. So Apoenzyme, a protein part, and coenzyme, a non-protein part. Together, they constitute a holoenzyme, which is the active part of the enzyme. That means this holoenzyme is the main part of the enzyme, which is responsible for its catalytic activity. Coming to the immobilization of enzymes. Now, in this, we are going to see what are the different techniques that we are going to use to immobilize the enzyme. Again, I say that why we have to immobilize the enzyme, because it has to be reused, because all the enzymes are like highly costlier. Whenever we are producing certain type of products in the industrial scale, the substrate will be converted to the product with the help of the enzyme so that we can speed up the rate of the reaction. Okay. But when the product has been formed, always when the enzyme is not immobilized, then it has to be discarded because it cannot be used further. But if the same enzyme has been immobilized on certain surface, or it has been impregnated on certain surface, then it can be used for, it can be reused for many number of times, such that reducing the cost as well as reducing the wastage of the enzymes. I shall give you a small example. Like whenever you are putting a tea decoction, say that there is a loose powder of the tea and there is a tea in a tea bag. Okay, so when you just put the tea powder in the water, so actually it will be a bit tedious process. You have to take the strainer and you have to pour the tea decoction in that, so that you have to separate that particular tea decoction. Whereas if that tea powder is placed in a bag, you're not allowing the tea powder to move. Of course, here tea powder cannot be reused, but as it comes in a daily process, what is meant by a immobilization, I say you here. Okay, so when the tea powder is in the tea bag, then it can be easily dipped into the water and it can be easily removed and discarded. You need not have any strainer or something. Okay, that is what immobilization is meant here. Suppose if any chemical reaction is happening and if you have added an enzyme which has not been immobilized on any surface, then what happens? Once the product has been formed, you have to discard even the enzyme. However, if this enzyme has been uh, coated on any surface, on any strip like thing, okay, if you just keep that strip in the beaker or any vessel where the reaction is happening, then once the reaction has been completed, you can just remove that strip out of the reaction, and then you can reuse it for the another reaction. So that is what the enzyme immobilization is and how it is useful in different industrial purposes. Okay, right. Coming back to the methods of immobilization, here we have 5 different types of enzyme immobilization, like adsorption, encapsulation, cross-linking, entrapment, and covalent bonding. And each one of the things will be discussing. So first, let us discuss about the adsorption. So when you just see here the image, the blue color one that I have mentioned here, it is the support and the enzyme is given in the form of, in the color of green color. Okay. So on the support material, it is just, the enzyme is just being adsorbed on the support material. So it cannot move here and there when it is placed in the reaction. And it is a physical method. We are not going to alter any structure of the enzyme or any property of the enzyme. This is just a physical method. So in detail, let us see about the adsorption. So here the enzyme molecules are adhered to the surface of the carrier matrix, and these the adherence of these enzymes to the carrier matrix, it could be either with hydrogen bonds, or it could be even with the van der Waals forces, but it could be never with the covalent bonds. So here the driving force is hydrophobic force and the salt bridge. That is the formation of the salt among the support as well as the enzyme molecule. It is going to get adhered over the supporting material. And the carriers that we use here in general are silica, carbon nanotubes, cellulose, etc. And the enzymes that can be absorbed with using this method are catalase and invertase. Coming to the advantages and disadvantages, these are simple and economical, limited loss of activity, and they can be recycled, regenerated, and reused. Whereas the disadvantages include they have relatively low surface area for binding, exposure of enzyme to microbial attack, and yield are often low due to inactivation and desorption. Desorption is nothing but it is opposite of adsorption. So as they are bound with the carrier molecule only with the van der Waals forces or the hydrogen bonds, which are very weak in nature. So there is a chance of desorption, that is getting away from the carrier. The enzyme need not present on the carrier always. They can get out of the carrier, which is called as a desorption. And it is not present inside the carrier. So as they are present over the surface of the carrier, there is an exposure of enzyme to the microbial attack. And also, depending upon the surface area of the carrier molecule, there will be less amount of the surface area. Less surface area will be present for it to be incorporated. So this is a physical adsorption method. Next, entrapment. So here, entrapment, it involves the physical entrapment inside a polymer or a gel matrix. And here, the matrix pores, the size of the matrix pores are such that the enzyme is retained while the substrate and product molecules passes through. And this technique is commonly called as a lattice entrapment method, where the enzyme is not subjected to strong binding forces and structural distortions. Some deactivation may, however, occur during immobilization process due to changes in the pH or temperature or addition of some solvents. But the matrices used for entrapment includes polyacrylamide gel, collagen, gelatin, starch, cellulose, silicone, and even rubber. And enzymes can be entrapped in several ways. That is, they can be entrapped in the gels, that is, they can be included in the gels, or they can be entrapped in the fibers, or they even can be entrapped in the micro capsule. So, by simply putting the enzyme into the gel, they can be impregnated, they can be entrapped within the gel. And then fibers, this is an example for the fibers, and this is for the encapsulation. So even here you can see this is a polymer that we have, and inside the polymer the enzyme have been encapsulated. So micro encapsulation was a most common method that we use for the entrapment, where in that process the spherical particle formation will be present, in which a liquid or suspension is enclosed in a semi-permeable membrane. And that semi-permeable membrane, it could be polymeric in nature, lipoidal in nature, lipoprotein in nature, or even non-ionic in nature. So this is about the entrapment. Next, we have other two methods, covalent binding and cross-linking methods. So, covalent binding method is nothing but it can be achieved by formation of covalent bonds between the chemical groups of the enzymes and chemical groups of the support. And this technique is a widely used technique, but as it is involving the chemical nature of the enzymes, sometimes there may be a loss of activity, because as we discussed the diholo enzyme, the active part of the enzyme, it is mostly it is the part that is responsible for the enzyme activity. There may be conformational changes in that particular part, so that this covalent binding or covalent bonding, it may leads to the loss of activity of the enzyme. And the inert support usually requires pre-treatment before it binds to the enzyme. And like we have different methods of covalent binding, like cyanogen bromide activation, diazotation, and peptide bond formation, as well as activation by bi or polyfunctional reagents. All these comes under the different methods that we use in the covalent binding. And lastly, we have the cross-linking methods. Here we doesn't use any support material. Okay, in the cross-linking method, we doesn't use any support material, and the enzymes, they themselves, they form as a cluster by forming some cross-linking between the enzymes. However, we use some cross-linking agents. The cross-linking, the most commonly used cross-linking agent is the glutaraldehyde, and sometimes we may even use diazobenzidine, hexamethylene diisocyanate, and toluene diisothiocyanate can also be used as a cross-linking agent. So what does this cross-linking agents do? These agents, in fact, they react with the enzyme molecules and create bridges which form the backbone to hold the enzyme molecules. And as I said, glutaraldehyde is the most commonly used cross-linking agent, and it reacts with lysosyl residues of the enzymes and forms the Schiff's base. Because this method is commonly used as it is a cost effective method and also very efficient method to make the enzyme immobilized. So here if you see, I have just given a tabular column where what is the method that we use for the immobilization and what is the support material that can be used and which type of the cells that can be immobilized and what is the reaction that happens with the help of this particular enzyme. So these are the different methods of immobilization of the enzymes. Next thing, going to the applications. So as an exam point of view, if a question is asked for a very short answer to mention about the applications of immobilization, it is just enough if you write about all these applications, like by just keeping a side heading and in what ways this immobilization of enzymes is useful. If you write, that is more than enough for 2 marks. However, if it is asked for short answer or a long answer, then you have to go in detail about each one of the application. So there are 3 different applications: industrial applications, analytical applications, and therapeutic applications. So here, industrial production of antibiotics, beverages, amino acids. So for the production of these, they are used in the industrial production. Like that, we have biomedical applications, food industry, research, biodiesel production, textile industry, wastewater management, and detergent industry. In all these areas, the immobilized enzymes are used. Now we'll see in detail. Suppose if it is being asked for a long answer, then you have to include all these things. So coming to the industrial applications, I have mentioned here what is a microorganism that has been immobilized and what is its application. So, E. coli, when it is an immobilized one, then it is used for the synthesis of L-aspartic acid from fumaric acid. And Pseudomonas species, they are used in the production of L-serine from glycine and methanol. And Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Saccharomyces other species, like in hydrolysis of sucrose and large-scale production of alcohol respectively, like that, different microorganisms and in which process they are involved in, it has been given here. Coming to the analytical applications, these immobilized enzymes, they can be used for the development of precise and specific analytical techniques for the estimation of several biochemical compounds. And the main principle of this analytical assay, it primarily involves the action of the immobilized enzyme on the substrate. That is how it is going to act on the substrate and how it is proceeding with the process and how the products are formed at the end. So all these things like decrease in the substrate concentration or increase in the product level or an alteration in the cofactor concentration, all these factors can be used for the particular assay. And immobilized glucose oxidase, it is used with the substrate glucose. That is, the glucose is the substrate which is assayed with the help of the glucose oxidase, urea by urease, cholesterol by cholesterol oxidase, and as well as lactate by the lactate dehydrogenase. And there are two types of the detector systems where we use the immobilized enzymes. They are thermistors and the electrode. So these are the detector systems where we use the immobilized enzymes as a we use the immobilized enzymes in these particular detector systems. And then coming to the therapeutic applications. So we have many therapeutic applications using these immobilized enzymes, as we have several limitations for the direct use of the enzymes for the therapeutic purposes. And these like what are the disadvantages that we have with that of the free enzymes are nothing but they are poorly available. Okay, poor availability of the enzyme at the site of action, sensitivity to natural inhibitors, degradation by endogenous proteases, and immunogenicity of certain enzymes, all these will become like a hurdle for them to be used in the therapeutic purposes. That is why the enzyme will be immobilized, and the examples that I have given here are immobilized streptokinase and urokinase. They can be used for the treatment of thrombosis, and phenylalanine and hydroxylase to treat the phenylketonuria, and lysosomal alpha 1,4 glucosidase. They can be used to correct the type 2 glycogen storage disease, which we call it as a POMS disease. And not only in treating the diseases, we can also use this immobilized enzyme for improving the drug delivery. Okay, that is what mentioned here. To improve the drug delivery, the immobilized enzymes can be used. Like by using this immobilized urease enzyme along with that of the urea, the drug delivery can be enhanced because urease splits urea. As urea splits urea, there will be an increase in the pH due to the formation of ammonium hydroxide, and the drug located in a pH sensitive bioerodible polymer can be effectively released for its action by using this urea urease modulated system. And also we can use glucose oxidase glucose modulated system for insulin delivery to the human body, a bioerodible polymeric system containing insulin. It has been developed, and the delivery of insulin can be modulated by immobilized glucose oxidase enzyme. As glucose oxidase acts on glucose, gluconic acid is produced which lowers the pH, and the low pH in turn it causes the release of insulin from the bioerodible polymeric system. In this way, by using the urea urease modulated system as well as glucose oxidase glucose modulated system, we can even improve the drug delivery by using the immobilized enzymes. So all these are the different applications of immobilization, like we have industrial, analytical and therapeutic applications. So with this, we have finished the topic of immobilization of enzymes. So we have seen what is enzyme immobilization and what are the intracellular and extracellular enzymes we have seen, and what is the classification. They are classified into 6 types, and what is the chemical nature of enzymes and the different techniques of immobilization of enzymes. And finally, we have seen about the applications of enzymes, immobilized enzymes. Thank you.